Jiho stood in the observation deck of Prosperity 7, watching the stars like he did every morning. The mining station floated quietly in the asteroid belt, far from Earth but close enough to feel like home. 12,000 people lived here. Miners, engineers, families with children. They were building something good out here in the darkness of space. His wife Yuna walked up behind him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Beautiful today," she said, handing him one. Jiho smiled. After 15 years of marriage, she still made every morning feel special. "I was thinking," Jiho said, "maybe we should visit Earth next year. Let the kids see where humanity started." Yuna nodded. "They would love that." Mina keeps asking about oceans. She's never seen one. The alarm started screaming. Jiho dropped his coffee. The cup shattered on the floor, but he was already running to the command center. Yuna followed close behind. Red lights flashed everywhere. The station's defense systems were going crazy. "Report," Jiho shouted as he reached the command station. Lieutenant Park looked terrified. "Unknown ships just appeared. 20 contacts. They're massive, Captain. Nothing like our designs." Jiho pulled up the visual feed. His blood turned cold. The ships were enormous, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They looked organic somehow, made of something that glowed with a purple light, beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Try to communicate," Jiho ordered. "All frequencies." "Tell them we're peaceful. Tell them the lead ship fired, no warning. No message. Just death." The blast hit Prosperity 7's western section. 3,000 people lived there. Jiho watched the section explode in silence. No sound in space, just the visual of his friends, his neighbors, his daughter's teacher. All gone in a flash of light. Shields up. "Return fire!" Jiho screamed, but he knew it was useless. Mining stations weren't built for war. Yuna grabbed his arm. "Jiho, we need to evacuate!" Another blast hit. The station shook violently. Sparks flew from the control panels. Lieutenant Park was thrown against the wall. He didn't get back up. "Emergency broadcast on all channels," Jiho said, his voice surprisingly steady. "This is Captain Jiho of Prosperity 7. Unknown hostile vessels are attacking. They fired without warning. They're killing us. If anyone receives this," the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. "Jiho." Yuna pulled him toward the emergency escape pods. Around them, people were screaming, running, crying. A mother carried her baby. An old man helped his wife, everyone trying to survive. But the alien ships were hunting them. Yun was loading cargo onto his small transport ship when the attack started. He watched in horror as the beautiful, terrible ships destroyed Prosperity 7 piece by piece. He saw something that made his stomach turn. The alien ships were targeting the escape pods. Small pods, each carrying maybe 10 people, launched desperately from the dying station. The alien ships picked them off one by one, like shooting fish in a barrel, like swatting flies. Like they enjoyed it, Hyun wanted to help. But what could his small cargo ship do against those monsters? He would just die too. So he did the only thing that made sense. He recorded everything. Every angle, every moment, every murder. Then he ran. His hands shook as he programmed the jump coordinates for Mars. The aliens didn't seem interested in his small ship. Maybe they thought he was just debris. Maybe they didn't care. He jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the massacre behind. Back on Prosperity 7, Jiho and Yuna reached an escape pod. 5 other people were already inside, including a teenage boy who couldn't stop crying. Jiho sealed the door and launched. For a moment, he thought they might make it. Then he saw the alien ship turning toward them. Its weapons glowed purple. Jiho held Yuna close. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too," she said. Jiho hit the emergency transmitter one last time. "They didn't even ask us to leave. They just killed us all." The blast turned their escape pod into vapor. Hyun reached Mars 3 days later. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, just stared at the recordings, watching humans die over and over. 12,000 people. Gone. Just like that. The Mars Defense Commander, a stern woman named Admiral Kang, watched the recordings in silence. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair so hard her knuckles turned white. "Send this to Earth Command," she finally said. "Send it to everyone. Every colony, every ship, every person needs to see this." "Ma'am," her assistant said quietly, "should we try to contact these aliens?" Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Admiral Kang's head snapped toward him. Did you watch the same video I did? They targeted escape pods. They killed children. There's no misunderstanding. This is extermination. She was right. Over the next week, humanity tried everything to communicate with the aliens. Scientists sent messages in mathematics, the universal language. Diplomats offered peace, trade, anything. Religious leaders even prayed on open broadcasts, hoping the aliens might be moved by faith. The aliens responded by attacking Luna Base. 50,000 people died when the moon base exploded. This time the aliens sent a message. It was short, translated badly into human languages like they couldn't be bothered to do it properly. Vermin cleared. Territory claimed. Earth's telescopes tracked the alien fleet. They were moving slowly, methodically destroying every human settlement they found. Asteroid mines, orbital stations, research outposts, all gone. The aliens were treating humanity like an infestation to be removed. Scientists finally identified the alien species from the wreckage. They called themselves the Vrexel. They were crystalline beings, their bodies made of some kind of living mineral. They had conquered 47 star systems before reaching human space. 47 civilizations had fallen before them. Now it was humanity's turn. In the burned remains of Prosperity 7, nothing moved. No survivors, no rescue missions, just debris and frozen bodies floating in the darkness. Among them, a child's toy drifted past a shattered window, a stuffed animal, brown and soft, that once belonged to someone's daughter. The Vrexel had made a fatal mistake that day, though they didn't know it yet. They had killed 12,000 humans and assumed the rest would surrender or die easily. They had treated humanity like every other species they'd conquered. But humanity was different. Humanity remembered. Humanity learned. And most importantly, humanity could hate with a fury that burned hotter than any star. The Vrexel had started something they couldn't imagine. They had awakened something ancient in the human soul, something that had helped humanity survive ice ages and predators and plagues, something that made humans the most dangerous species on Earth, the will to survive at any cost. The war had begun, and the Vrexel would learn too late what it meant to provoke humanity. Admiral Doyen watched Earth's defense fleet burn. 32 warships, humanity's pride, reduced to wreckage in less than an hour. The Vrexel shields absorbed everything humanity threw at them. Human weapons just bounced off like raindrops. "Pull back," Doyen ordered. His voice was calm, but inside he felt sick. "All ships retreat to Mars orbit. Fighting pattern Delta." "Sir, that's a full retreat," his second officer said. We can't win here," Doyen interrupted. "So we don't try. We make them pay for every inch, but we survive. Dead heroes don't protect Earth." The fleet retreated. The Vrexel followed, but slowly. They seemed in no hurry. Why would they be? They were winning. This became the pattern for 2 years. Fight, lose, retreat. Fight, lose, retreat. Every battle was a defeat. But Admiral Doyen made sure every defeat cost the Vrexel time. Time was what humanity needed most. On Mars, Taman loaded his rifle for the 100th time that day. He was a Marine, 23 years old, and he'd seen more death than anyone should see in a lifetime. The Vrexel were coming to Mars. Everyone knew it. The only question was when. "Hey, Taman," his friend Bora said. "You think we can actually stop them?" Taman looked at the red Martian sky. Somewhere up there, the Vrexel fleet was getting closer. "Probably not. But we'll make them bleed for it." Bora laughed, but it was a sad sound. "My mom's back on Earth. I send her messages every day. Tell her I'm fine, everything's safe. She probably knows I'm lying." "Keep lying," Taman said. "Hope is important too." The Vrexel landed 3 days later. Taman saw them for the first time through his rifle scope. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, and their bodies looked like they were made of purple crystal, beautiful in a terrifying way. They moved fast, faster than anything that big should move. The first battle lasted 6 hours. Taman's unit of 200 Marines fought 5 Vrexel warriors. Only 12 Marines survived. Taman was one of them. Bora wasn't. Human bullets barely scratched the Vrexel armor. Explosives worked better, but you had to get close. Very close. Most Marines who got that close never came back. Taman shot one Vrexel in the face 17 times. It stumbled, shook its head, and kept coming. Finally, another Marine threw a grenade that hit just right. The Vrexel shattered like glass, pieces flying everywhere. "That's how we kill them," Taman reported to command. "Explosives at the joints. Their armor has weak points, but you need to be close." The information spread through the human forces. It helped, a little. Marines started winning occasionally, but for every Vrexil they killed, 20 humans died. The math was simple and terrible. Humanity was losing. Meanwhile, in a secret laboratory beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Sora hadn't slept in 3 days. Maybe 4. She'd lost track. Around her, hundreds of scientists worked on pieces of Vrexil technology recovered from battlefields. It's quantum locked, Dr. Sora explained to a visiting general. Their shields exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. That's why our weapons pass through sometimes, but not others. The shield is choosing which dimension to be solid in. The general frowned. Can we copy it? Not yet. Maybe never. Their science is centuries ahead of ours. Dr. Sora pulled up holographic displays showing complex equations, but I found something interesting. Their shields have a pattern. They assume attacks come in straight lines, direct fire, because that's how the last 47 species fought them. And humans don't have to fight fair. Dr. Sora smiled for the first time in months. We can be creative. She began designing new weapons. Missiles that curved in impossible patterns. Bombs that split into hundreds of smaller bombs. Mines that waited and learned before exploding. Nothing the Vrexil had seen before. But design was easy. Building enough of these weapons to matter? That would take time. More time than humanity might have. Mars fell 6 months after the ground war started. Admiral Doyen evacuated 3 million civilians, but 5 million died. The Vrexil broadcast another message. Vermin retreating. Extermination continues. Taman escaped on one of the last transport ships. He was covered in blood, none of it his. He'd watched the Vrexil tear through city after city. They didn't take prisoners. Didn't accept surrender. Just killed everything human they found. They're not fighting a war, Taman told the ship's captain. They're cleaning house. That's all we are to them. Pests. The captain, an old woman named Han, nodded. I've been in space 40 years. Seen a lot. Never seen anything like this. They don't even hate us. It's worse than hate. It's indifference. The Vrexil continued their advance. They took the asteroid belt, destroyed the Jupiter mining stations, killed millions more. Every human position fell eventually. The Vrexil shields were too strong. Their weapons too powerful. Their soldiers too tough. But Admiral Doyen kept fighting smart. He never committed his full fleet. Never tried to hold impossible positions. He traded space for time, lives for days, defeats for lessons. We're learning how they think, he told Earth Command. They're arrogant. They win the same way every time because it always works. They have no backup plans because they never needed backup plans. How does that help us? Earth's president asked. It means they're predictable, and predictable enemies can be beaten. We need weapons that can actually hurt them first. Dr. Sora is working on it. She needs to work faster. They'll reach Jupiter in 6 months. Then there's nothing between them and Earth. Doyen knew. Everyone knew. Time was running out. In her laboratory, Dr. Sora made a breakthrough. She discovered that Vrexil shields, for all their quantum complexity, had one weakness. They regenerated using energy from their ship's reactors. Cut the power even for a microsecond and the shields collapsed. We need weapons that can create electromagnetic pulses, she reported, specifically tuned to Vrexil reactor frequencies. How long to build them? 8 months for prototypes. 2 years for mass production. We have 6 months. Dr. Sora looked at the data again. Then we need to change everything. Stop all other production. Every factory, every resource, everything goes to weapons research and production. Total war economy. That's extreme. So is extinction. Earth's government made the decision. Every luxury stopped. Every non-essential industry closed. Billions of people went to work in weapons factories. Old people, teenagers, everyone who could work. Humanity transformed itself into a war machine. Taman recovered from his wounds and volunteered for a new Special Forces unit. They were training for something different. Not holding ground or defending positions. Hit and run, sabotage, assassination. We're not strong enough to fight them directly, their instructor explained. So we don't. We hit them where they're weak. Supply lines, communications, officers make them afraid. Can Vrexil feel fear? Someone asked. The instructor smiled coldly. We're going to find out. The Special Forces launched their first mission 3 months later. 12 soldiers infiltrated a Vrexil supply depot. They planted explosives and escaped. 20 Vrexil died in the explosion. It was a tiny victory, meaningless in the scale of the war, but it was a victory. The first real victory humanity had won. More followed. The special forces hit Vrexel bases, ambushed patrols, destroyed supplies. Each mission killed only a few enemies, but the Vrexel started acting differently, more cautious, more paranoid. They're adapting, Admiral Doyen noted. Good adaptation takes mental energy, makes them less efficient. The Vrexel reached Jupiter right on schedule. Their massive fleet assembled in orbit. 800 capital ships, thousands of support vessels, more firepower than humanity had ever seen in one place. Admiral Doyen gathered what remained of Earth's defense fleet. 300 ships, old, damaged, outgunned. Everyone expected a final desperate battle, a heroic last stand before Earth fell, but Doyen was smiling. "Sir," his second officer asked, "what are you smiling about?" "The new weapons just arrived," Doyen said. Dr. Sora finished early. All of them. Every ship now has quantum disruptors. Will they work? We're about to find out. Send the message to the fleet. Operation Humanity begins in 1 hour. The officer paused. "Sir, we only have 300 ships. They have 800. "I know," Doyen said. "That's why I didn't tell you about the other ships." "What other ships?" Doyen's smile grew wider. "All of them." Minho hadn't seen his family in 18 months. He worked 16 hours a day in Factory Complex 7, one of thousands spread across Earth. The factory had been a car manufacturing plant once. Now it made warships. Every day, Minho watched the numbers tick up on the big screen. Ships completed 4,247, then 4,248, then 4,249. Each number represented a weapon that could fight the Vrexel. Each number was hope taking physical form. "Take a break," his assistant said. "You look terrible." "Can't," Minho replied, checking the assembly line. "The Admiral needs 10,000 ships. We're not even halfway there." 10,000? That's impossible. Minho laughed, a tired sound. Everything's impossible until humans decide to do it anyway. The factory floor stretched forever. Thousands of workers, human and robot, building ships piece by piece. Minho had optimized the process 17 times. Each optimization saved 2 hours of construction time. Multiply that by 10,000 ships and you saved years. Years humanity didn't have. In another part of the complex, a teenage girl named Jiwan stared at holographic blueprints. She was 19 years old and had already revolutionized weapons design 3 times. Adults kept telling her she was too young to understand warfare. She kept proving them wrong. "The problem with missiles is they're stupid," Jiwan explained to a room full of generals. "They lock onto a target and fly straight. The Vrexel shields can predict the trajectory and adapt. We need missiles that think AI-guided?" One general asked. "Better. Learning AI. The missile watches how the shield reacts and adjusts mid-flight. If the shield moves to dimension A, the missile calculates and moves to dimension B. It learns, adapts, evolves, all in the 3 seconds between launch and impact." The generals looked skeptical. Jiwan sighed. Adults never believed her until she showed them. She pulled up combat simulations. Her Reaper missiles hit Vrexel shields at a 97% success rate. "Traditional missiles? 12%. How long to build these?" the lead general asked, suddenly very interested. "Minho's factories can start production tomorrow. We'll have 50,000 ready in 5 months. "Make it 100,000, Jiwan grinned. "Now you're thinking like a human." While factories produced ships and weapons, another group worked on something just as important. Intelligence Officer Nari sat in a dark room, listening to Vrexel communications for the 1,000th time. The language was difficult, musical but alien, like crystals singing. She'd been trying to crack their military codes for a year. Everyone said it was impossible. Vrexel encryption used quantum mathematics that human computers couldn't break. But Nari wasn't using computers. She was using pattern recognition, human intuition. "They repeat this sequence every 40 minutes, she told her team, pointing at a waveform. "See? Same pattern, different frequency?" "Status reports," another analyst suggested. "Like our ships checking in." "Exactly. Which means this sequence here," Nari highlighted another pattern, "must be the command ship acknowledging receipt." Over 3 months, Nari and her team built a map of Vrexel military structure. They couldn't translate most of it, but they understood the shape. The Vrexel operated on rigid hierarchy. Every battle group had one command ship. That ship gave orders to everyone else. Kill the command ship and the others paused, just for a few seconds. But in battle, seconds meant everything. "This is their weakness," Nari reported to Admiral Doyen. "They have no redundancy, no backup commanders. Their entire military assumes the leader survives. Doyen studied the data. They've never lost a command ship before. They don't plan for it because it never happens. Until now. Until now. Doyen agreed. The pieces were coming together. Minho's factories produced ships faster than anyone thought possible. 10,000 warships, each equipped with Dr. Sora's quantum disruptors and Jiwan's Reaper missiles. 500 million humans volunteered for military service. They couldn't all fit in ships, but every colony, every station, every habitat had defenders now. Earth's orbital space transformed into a fortress. Weapons platforms surrounded the planet like a metal shell. If the Vrexel reached Earth, they'd face a nightmare of crossfire and explosions. But Admiral Doyen didn't plan to let them reach Earth. The Vrexel fleet sat in Jupiter's orbit, preparing for their final assault. They'd taken 2 years to crush humanity this far. Now only one more push remained. Earth would fall within weeks. The Vrexel commanders were already planning victory celebrations. They had no idea what was coming. Admiral Doyen gathered his captains for final orders. The hologram showed 10,000 human ships hidden in the outer solar system, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Maybe the largest fleet any species had ever assembled. We get one chance, Doyen said. The Vrexel think we have 300 ships. They think we're broken, desperate, weak. Let them think that. When we hit them, we hit with everything. No reserves, no backup plan. Total commitment. What if it doesn't work? Someone asked. Then we die fighting. Better than dying running. Doyen looked at each captain in turn. But it will work. We know their weakness. We have the weapons. We have the people. Most importantly, we have something the Vrexel don't understand. What's that? Desperation. They're fighting to expand their empire. We're fighting to survive. That makes all the difference. The captains returned to their ships. Minho watched from Factory Complex 7 as the first ships left orbit. His ships. Weapons he'd built with his own hands. He thought about his family who died on Prosperity 7. His wife, his daughter, his parents. Gone in the first attack. This is for you, he whispered. Jiwan watched her Reaper missiles being loaded onto ships. 100,000 smart weapons, each programmed with her learning algorithms. She'd tested them 1,000 times in simulation. But simulation wasn't reality. What if she'd made a mistake? What if they didn't work? She pushed the doubt away. Human engineers didn't have the luxury of doubt anymore. They had to trust their work and hope it was enough. Nari transmitted the final intelligence package to every ship. Vrexel command ship signatures, communication patterns, tactical formations. Everything humanity had learned about the enemy. She'd spent a year gathering this information. Now it would be tested in battle. Good hunting, she whispered to the fleet. The Vrexel detected the 300 human ships approaching Jupiter. Their commanders laughed. Such a small force. This would be a quick battle. They arranged their 800 ships in standard formation and prepared to destroy humanity's last defense. Fleet, they never saw the other. 2,700 ships. Admiral Doyen waited until the Vrexel committed their forces. Then he gave the order. 10,000 human warships dropped out of quantum space all at once, surrounding the Vrexel fleet completely. The Vrexel commanders had 3 seconds to realize what happened. 3 seconds to understand they'd been tricked. 3 seconds to know they were about to die. Then the humans opened fire. Jiwan's Reaper missiles launched by the thousands. They danced through space, weaving and dodging, learning the Vrexel shield patterns in real time. The first wave hit with 83% accuracy. The second wave, learning from the first, hit at 92%. Our Vrexel shields, the impenetrable defense that had protected them for 300 years, shattered like glass. Dr. Sora's quantum disruptors followed. They sent targeted electromagnetic pulses that cut Vrexel reactor power for exactly 0.4 seconds. In that tiny window, the shields collapsed completely. Human railguns and missiles poured through the gaps. But the real genius was Nari's intelligence. Every battle group had its command ship marked. Human forces focused fire on those ships first. When a command ship exploded, the other Vrexel ships paused, waiting for new orders. In those precious seconds, more human weapons hit home. The Battle of Jupiter became a massacre. But this time, humans were doing the killing. Vrexel ships burned. Their beautiful crystalline hulls cracked and shattered. Their commanders tried to adapt, but they'd never fought an enemy like this. Humans didn't follow predictable patterns. They attacked from impossible angles. They targeted weak points. They worked together with coordination the Vrexel had never seen. 6 hours later, it was over. 800 Rexel capital ships destroyed. 3 managed to jump away, damaged and fleeing. Humanity lost 200 ships, a heavy price. But compared to the alternative, it was a miracle. Admiral Doyen stood on his bridge, watching the debris field that had been the Rexel fleet. Around him his crew cheered. Some cried, others sat in stunned silence. "Send a message," Doyen ordered, "to every human in the solar system. Tell them we won." The message spread at light speed, from Earth to Mars, from the asteroid belt to Titan's colonies. Humans who had lived in fear for 2 years suddenly had hope again. In Factory Complex 7, Minho collapsed into his chair and wept. Not from sadness this time. From relief. His ships had worked. The weapons he'd built had saved humanity. Jiwan watched the battle statistics come in. Her missiles had performed even better than simulations predicted. 94% final accuracy. She allowed herself a small smile. Not bad for a 19-year-old. Nari read the casualty reports. Thousands of humans had died in the battle, but billions had been saved. She thought about all the intelligence analysts who'd worked beside her, many dying in earlier battles. They'd helped win this victory too. Fleet Admiral Yuna stood before the holographic map of Rexil space. 47 star systems glowed red. Each one represented a conquered world. Each one had once been home to a different species. Most of those species were gone now, extinct or enslaved. "How do we do this?" President Hana asked. She'd arrived from Earth to oversee the campaign planning. "Carefully," Yuna replied. "The Vrexel are wounded but not dead. They'll defend every system, every planet. This won't be quick." "How long?" 3 years. Maybe 4? President Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Do it. End them." Humanity's war machine didn't slow down. If anything, it accelerated. The factories kept building ships. Now humanity had shipyards in orbit around every major planet. New warships launched every single day. The fleet grew from 10,000 to 20,000 to 30,000. The Vrexil had never imagined an industrial capacity like this. In their empire, conquered species built things for them. They'd forgotten how to mass-produce anything. Humans, having built their entire civilization on industry, found it as natural as breathing. Yuna divided the fleet into strike groups. Each group had a target system. The strategy was simple. Jump in, destroy the Vrexil military, free any enslaved populations, and move to the next system. No pauses, no mercy for Vrexil forces. Complete and total war. Colonel Taman, promoted after surviving Mars, led the Marine Assault Forces. He'd been fighting the Vrexil for 3 years now. He knew how they moved, how they thought, how they died. That knowledge made him valuable. It also gave him nightmares. "First target is System 7, Yuna briefed the strike force commanders. 20 million Vrexil civilians, 5,000 military. They have orbital defenses, but nothing compared to their main fleet. "Rules of engagement?" Taman asked. "Military targets only. Civilians are to be protected, even Vrexil civilians. We're not them," some officers grumbled. After all the Vrexil had done, showing mercy seemed wrong. But orders were orders. The assault on System 7 began at dawn, solar time. 30 human warships jumped into orbit. Vrexil defense platforms opened fire immediately. The battle lasted 4 hours. Every Vrexil military installation was destroyed. Not one human ship was lost. Taman's Marines landed on the planet's surface. They expected resistance. What they found was refugees. The planet's surface was covered in work camps. Thousands of aliens from different species, all enslaved by the Vrexil. They mined minerals, built structures, farmed food. The Vrexil didn't use robots for labor. They used conquered people. "What are you?" one alien asked Taman. She looked humanoid but with blue skin and 4 arms. "We're humans. We're here to free you." "Are you going to enslave us now?" The question hurt. "No, you're free. Actually free. You can stay here, come with us, or we'll help you find your homeworld if it still exists." The alien started crying. Others gathered around. Taman's translator struggled with all the different languages. 17 species were imprisoned here. Most had been enslaved for generations. Many didn't even remember their original homeworlds. "The Vrexil military?" Taman asked. "They ran," an alien said. "When your ships appeared, they took transport vessels and fled. Left us here." Over the next weeks, similar scenes played out across Vrexil space. System after system fell to human forces, and in each system humanity discovered the same thing. The Vrexil Empire was built on suffering. War correspondent Seojin documented everything. He'd been a journalist before the war, covering sports and entertainment. Now he documented genocide. His report showed the galaxy what the Vrexil had done. Mass graves on System 12. 42 million aliens buried there, killed because the Vrexil needed the land for mining operations. On System 19, they found children in cages. The Vrexil had been experimenting on them, trying to understand other species' biology. Most of the children didn't survive. System 25 had been home to a species called the Trell. Seojin found records showing the Trell had been completely exterminated. 8 billion people. Their crime? They'd resisted Vrexil occupation. How many species have they destroyed completely? Seojin asked a Vrexil prisoner. The Vrexil, a military officer, seemed confused by the question. 42. They were obstacles to progress. They were people. They were resources. Or they were in the way. Same thing. Seojin's reports changed everything. At first, some humans had argued for a negotiated peace. Maybe the Vrexil could be contained, controlled, allowed to keep some territory. After seeing what the Vrexil had done, those arguments stopped. The Vrexil Empire had to end. Completely. Fleet Admiral Yuna pushed deeper into Vrexil space. Her forces grew as liberated species joined the fight. The blue-skinned four-armed aliens called themselves the Kree. They volunteered thousands of soldiers. "We've waited 3 generations for this," their leader told Yuna. "The chance to fight back. Thank you for giving us this." "Thank us by fighting well," Yuna replied. The combined human-alien fleet became unstoppable. The Vrexil tried to mount defenses, but their military was in chaos. They'd never lost before. Their entire structure was built on the assumption of constant victory. Defeat didn't just hurt them militarily. It broke something in their culture. But they didn't surrender. Surrender wasn't in their vocabulary. Instead, they fought with increasing desperation. On System 31, Vrexil forces used weapons that poisoned the entire planet's atmosphere. They killed 20 million of their own civilians just to deny humanity the territory. "They're insane," Colonel Taman said, looking at the dead world. "No," Yuna corrected. "They're true believers. They genuinely think other species are worthless. They'd rather destroy everything than admit they're wrong." The war continued. System by system, planet by planet, humanity dismantled the Vrexil Empire. It took 3 years, just as Yuna had predicted. 3 years of constant fighting. Human casualties numbered in the millions, but Vrexil casualties were far higher. Seojin documented it all. He showed the galaxy what human war looked like. It wasn't pretty. Humans could be brutal when necessary, but even in their brutality, they maintained rules. No targeting civilians. No torture. No genocide. Prisoners were treated fairly, even Vrexil prisoners. Other species watched in amazement. They'd seen the Vrexil Empire terrorize the galaxy for 3 centuries. Now they watched humans tear it apart in 3 years, and humans did it while maintaining their morality. How? One alien ambassador asked Seojin. "How do you stay good while fighting monsters?" Seojin thought about it. "Because if we become monsters to fight monsters, what's the point of winning? We'd just be replacing one empire with another." The final Vrexil strongholds fell one by one. Each system liberated revealed new horrors. But it also revealed something else: survivors. Species the Vrexil had thought broken and defeated were still fighting. Underground resistance movements. Hidden communities. People who'd refused to give up hope. Colonel Taman met many of these survivors. They reminded him why the war mattered. Not revenge, though that was there too, but justice, saving people who couldn't save themselves. Stopping evil because it needed to be stopped. On System 46, Taman found an old Kree woman who'd been enslaved for 80 years. She'd spent her entire life in chains. When his Marines broke those chains, she looked at him with tears streaming down her blue face. "Is it really over?" she asked. "One more system," Taman said. "Then it's over." That last system was Vrexilis Prime, the Vrexil homeworld. Where this species had originated, where their empire began, where their leaders waited. Fleet Admiral Yuna assembled the largest fleet in human history. 50,000 warships from dozens of species. Every ship humanity had built. Every ally they'd liberated, all converging on one planet. The Vrexil had nowhere left to run. No allies to call. No reserves to deploy. Their empire, built over 300 years, had fallen in 3. Humanity's fleet surrounded Vrexilis Prime. The Vrexel homeworld hung in space before them. 200 million civilians lived on that planet. The Vrexel military was destroyed. They had no defense except their fortress shields. For the first time in their history, the Vrexel tried to surrender. "This is Vrexelis Prime Command." The message came in broken human language. "We request terms." Admiral Una stared at the message for a long time. She thought about Prosperity 7, about the 18 billion humans who'd died, about the 42 species the Vrexel had exterminated, about the countless billions enslaved, tortured, killed. No terms, she wanted to say. You showed no mercy. Expect none, but that wasn't her call. This decision belonged to all humanity. She forwarded the message to Earth. President Hana received it in her office. She looked at the message. One word could end the Vrexel species forever. One word could avenge every human death. One word could ensure they never threatened anyone again. But was that who humanity wanted to be? She called an emergency assembly. Every human colony, every station, every ship. Everyone would vote on this. The fate of the Vrexel species would be decided by the species they'd tried to destroy. Democracy in action, even in wartime. Even when choosing between justice and revenge, the vote would take 1 week to organize. Until then, the fleet would wait. And the Vrexel would wait too, wondering if their extinction was coming. Colonel Taman sat in his quarters, thinking about Bora, his friend who died on Mars, all his other friends who hadn't survived. What would they want? The vote took 7 days to organize. 7 days where 50,000 warships surrounded Vrexelis Prime. 7 days where 200 million Vrexel civilians waited to learn if they would live or die. 7 days where humanity debated its own soul. President Hana watched the arguments rage across every human colony. People were angry. They had every right to be. 18 billion humans dead, thousands of settlements destroyed, families torn apart, lives ruined, all because the Vrexel saw humanity as vermin. They deserve extinction, many said. They showed no mercy. Why should we? Others disagreed. We're better than them. That's why we won. If we exterminate them, we prove they were right about us. The debate got heated. On Mars, riots broke out. People who'd lost everything to the Vrexel couldn't imagine letting them live. On Earth, peace protesters marched, arguing that genocide was never justified. Every human colony became a battlefield of words and emotions. Admiral Una stayed with the fleet, watching the planet below. She'd spent 3 years destroying the Vrexel Empire. She'd seen their atrocities firsthand. She'd also seen their surrender. They were beaten, helpless, terrified, just like humanity had been 3 years ago. Colonel Taman walked through the ship corridors thinking. A young officer stopped him. "Colonel, how are you voting?" "I don't know yet," Taman admitted. "But they killed your friends." "Your unit, everyone." "I know." "Believe me, I know," Taman sighed. "But I keep thinking about something. When we liberated the camps, we found Vrexel children. Not soldiers. Not leaders. Just children. They didn't ask to be born Vrexel. They didn't order the attacks. Are they guilty?" The officer looked confused. "But they're Vrexel. They're children. And if we kill them for what their parents did, we're no better than the empire we just destroyed." The name kept coming up in the debates. Jiho, the captain of Prosperity 7 who sent the final transmission. They didn't even ask us to leave. They just killed us all. His words had started this war. Now they asked what he would want. His son was alive. Jiho, too, named after his father, was now an officer on one of the human warships. He'd survived because he'd been visiting Earth when the attack happened. He'd spent 3 years fighting to avenge his family. Now he spoke publicly about the vote. "My father was a good man," Jiho too said in a broadcast to all human colonies. "He believed in fairness and justice. I've thought a lot about what he'd want us to do now, and I think he'd want mercy." The statement shocked many people. His family had been killed. How could he argue for mercy? "Because," Jiho too continued, "my father taught me that justice isn't about revenge. It's about making things right. We can't bring back the dead. We can't undo the past. But we can choose what kind of future we build. Do we want to be known as the species who defeated an empire and chose mercy? Or the species who became exterminators ourselves?" He paused, emotion clear in his voice. "The Vrexel leaders who ordered the attacks should face trial. War criminals should be punished. The military should be dismantled. But the civilians? The children. They're not our enemies. They're just people born into the wrong civilization. We can show them a better way. His words changed the debate. Not everyone agreed, but the conversation shifted. From revenge to justice. From extermination to accountability. Dr. Sora, who developed the weapons that won the war, also spoke up. I created technology to save humanity, not to commit genocide. If we use our victory to exterminate another species, I'll spend the rest of my life regretting every weapon I built. Minho, who'd built thousands of warships, agreed. We built these ships to defend ourselves, not to become conquerors, not to become monsters. The debates continued. Some humans couldn't forgive. The wounds were too deep, too fresh. They wanted every Vrexel dead. Others argued passionately for mercy. The vote would be close. On Vrexilus Prime, the Vrexil waited. They watched the human fleet through their telescopes. They listened to intercepted communications. Slowly, they began to understand what was happening. Humanity was debating whether to kill them, taking time to discuss it, asking everyone's opinion. It was completely alien to Vrexil thinking. In their empire, leaders decided and subjects obeyed. The idea that common people could vote on something this important seemed insane. Yet this strange democratic process was exactly why humanity had won. Some Vrexil began studying human culture for the first time, not as enemies to be destroyed, but as a civilization to be understood. What they found surprised them. Humans were violent when necessary, yes, but they were also kind, creative, willing to change. They fought wars but also wrote poetry, built weapons but also made art. The Vrexil had dismissed humanity as vermin. Now they saw the truth. Humanity was complex in ways the Vrexil had never developed. 300 years of easy conquest had made the Vrexil rigid and simple. They'd stopped growing as a civilization. The 7 days ended. The vote concluded. President Hana received the results in her office on Earth. She sat quietly for a long time looking at the numbers. 52% voted for mercy. 48% voted for extinction. The closest vote in human history. Humanity had chosen mercy by the slimmest margin possible. Many would be angry. Many would feel justice had been denied. But the vote was the vote. Democracy had spoken. President Hana prepared her address. This would be broadcast not just to humans, but to every species in the galaxy. Her words would define humanity's place in the universe. She began speaking. People of Earth and all human colonies. Allied species who fought beside us. And yes, the Vrexil who wait on their homeworld wondering if they'll see tomorrow. The vote is complete. By the will of humanity, the Vrexil species will not be exterminated. I know many of you are angry. I know you wanted revenge. Your feelings are valid. The Vrexil killed 18 billion of us. They destroyed our homes. They showed no mercy when they had power. Many believe they deserve none now, but we are not the Vrexil. The Vrexil believed that power alone determines survival. They believed the weak deserve elimination. They believed might makes right. They were wrong. We defeated them not because we were crueler, but because we were united, not because we matched their brutality, but because we exceeded their capability while maintaining our principles. Today we make a choice that defines us as a species. We could exterminate the Vrexil and prove that they were right, that survival is only about power and ruthlessness. Or we can prove them wrong. We can show that strength and mercy can coexist, that justice doesn't require genocide. The Vrexil Empire is dissolved as of this moment. Their military is destroyed. Their conquered territories are free. The individuals who ordered attacks on our worlds will face trial for war crimes. We will not forget. We will not forgive, but we will not become executioners of civilians. The Vrexil people will be placed under supervised governance. Their technology will be restricted. Their weapons will be destroyed. They will rebuild their civilization under the watch of the galactic community. They will learn that there is another way to exist in this universe. A better way. We are humanity. We survived the impossible. We defeated an empire that thought us vermin. And now, in our moment of total victory, we choose mercy. Not because they deserve it, but because we are better than that. To the Vrexil, you provoked humanity. You started this war. You thought we would be easy to destroy. You were wrong about everything. Your empire is gone. Your power is broken. Your legacy is shame, but your species survives. Learn from this. Grow from this. Become something better than what you were. To the galaxy, humanity is not seeking to replace the Vrexil Empire with our own. We fought to defend ourselves and to free those enslaved by Vrexil cruelty. Those worlds are now free to choose their own paths. We offer alliance, friendship, and trade, but never conquest. This is who we are. This is who we choose to be. Strong enough to destroy, wise enough not to. The broadcast ended. Across human space, reactions were mixed. Some cheered, some protested, but the decision was made. Fleet Admiral Una transmitted the terms to Vrexilis Prime. The Vrexil leadership would stand trial. The military would be dissolved. The government would be reformed under galactic supervision. Vrexil technology would be restricted for 100 years, but the people would live. Colonel Taman watched as Vrexil civilians emerged from their shelters. They'd been hiding, expecting orbital bombardment. Instead, they found mercy. Some collapsed in relief. Others stood in shock, unable to process what had happened. Human Marines landed to begin the occupation. It would be peaceful but firm. The Vrexil would be guarded, monitored, controlled, not as slaves, but as a defeated people learning to exist in a universe they no longer dominated. Taman walked through the Vrexil capital city. The buildings were beautiful, made of crystal that caught the sunlight. The Vrexil people moved around him cautiously. They were terrified of humans. Good. A little fear was healthy. A young Vrexil child approached him, maybe 8 years old if Taman understood their aging correctly. The child held out a piece of fruit. "For the human soldier," she said in heavily accented human language. Taman stared at the fruit. This child hadn't ordered the attacks, hadn't killed anyone. She'd just been born in the wrong place at the wrong time. He took the fruit. "Thank you," he said.